There has been a huge discourse on Philippine TikTok involving the state of rail transportation, particularly criticizing a creator's privileged perspective of the system. And looking into the whole situation, it made me realize that I'm pretty privileged myself in a way. I've constantly preached how public transportation can ease traffic if most people would opt to use rail transportation. However, in reality, a majority of commuters still choose jeepneys and buses over rail transportation. There are a lot of reasons for this, from personal preference to how rail transportation in the Philippines, in contrast to other transit transportation in the world, is kinda terrible. If we are talking about rail transportation, we have to identify the components of the system: the station, the trains themselves, and the locations. There are currently 3 operating lines in Metro Manila. LRT-1 was completed in the 1980s, and LRT-2 and MRT-3 were both completed near the new millennium. Regardless of what era they were completed in, accessibility is gonna be a point of issue in rail transportation. LRT-2 is a good example of accessible transportation. All stations provide elevators for PWD commuters, while key areas offer escalator service. MRT-3 also provides escalators and elevators, but only in key areas, while being notorious for its long flights of stairs due to the geography of the system stations. Then we head on over to the LRT-1 line. Over 18 stations were built in the 1980s. Since then, Metro Manila's population has doubled, and most of the line stations are badly outdated. In some cases, there are only 3 turnstiles serving tens of commuters. The disunified rail system of the region also contributes to the inconsistency of rail transportation. Your experience depends on which station you use. There are small stations, big stations, stations with a concourse level, stations requiring you to either climb up or walk on the street to board the other side, different station designs, elevated, grounded, underground, and this can be a big issue when key areas of the region are serviced with insufficient size. Take the EDSA station in LRT-1. It's connected to the terminus of the MRT-3 line, with a big influx of commuters heading on to the destinations, with a big chunk of them going to the LRT-1 line. However, the size of the station does not meet this demand. This results in long lines that extend to the already tight footbridges. And with how far stations are situated from each other, the only people who benefit from switching lanes are college students required to record the steps. While we are on the topic of stations, I'd like to talk about the locations of the stations. LRT-1 line has stations such as Arpapa and Bambang and more that are barely used due to their proximity to other stations of the line and the lack of necessity. EDSA is fairly mountainous in some areas or hosts other challenges in creating a station. This results in stations being far away from commuters or being so tall that you might as well go for a hike. I would argue that the LRT-2 line has the best station locations out of the 3. Even if there are some stations that are practically ghost stations, they're perfectly spaced out. However, because of speed limitations in the system, this can result in train traffic. Yes, trains have traffic. If there are too many train cars in the system or there has been an accident, there are cases where the train will wait for some time, or maybe even force commuters to walk to the station if the whole line is affected. But the main issue of rail transportation is overcrowding. LRT-1 is probably the worst case of overcrowding since it serves a plethora of schools, regions, and more. The line is quite fascinating as the terminal stations aren't really that busy, but other stations contribute to the volume of traffic, especially PTEX and EDSA generate the most commuters. This would lead to commuters from other stations having to wait for a train car that they can barely squeeze into. And with a future extension serving the populous areas of Cavite, this issue will not calm down in the future. LRT-2 has a different kind of overcrowding, considering that the line cannot act like a point-to-point line, with most commuters using the line to go to Recto, Cubao, or Antipolo. Because of how far each station is from each other, you'd wait for around 5 minutes until a train arrives. And then there's the MRT-3 line, which is practically the only form of transportation that goes to the entirety of EDSA except for the EDSA carousel. But because of the ongoing EDSA rehabilitation project and the bus line experiencing traffic, you could guess where that goes. The controversy started when a TikToker named JV uploaded a video labeling the MRT and LRT system of the country as an underrated hack to beat traffic. JV primarily makes travel and lifestyle videos, often documenting his commuting experience. His TikTok video quickly garnered backlash due to people viewing the video as insensitive, making it seem like rail transportation is a cheat code and an unknown thing. like millions of people aren't dependent on using these lines. People also took offense to the video displaying the system as a calm and spacious area, with many joking that he should board the train in rush hour. Many labeled him out of touch and privileged due to his video displaying a sense of selling a different reality, a contrast between a cheat code and a necessity for commuters. JB would publicly apologize, saying that he did not intend to attack anyone but also shared his perspective, saying that he moved to Manila after the pandemic and didn't use rail transportation because of the long lines, and that the system haven't provided contactless payment, opting to use ride-sharing platforms like Grab. Just a recommendation for you, a beep card, dude. But after moving to North Caloocan, he started using rail transportation more and found appreciation, choosing to stand for a long time in an overcrowded train rather than be stuck in traffic. I do understand his perspective. If he thinks that rail transportation is underrated in the region because of how people view it as overcrowded, then it is purely his perspective, and he has faced the hardships of the line, so I wouldn't call him out of touch or privileged. I would say that he expressed his perspective very poorly. Many find commuting in general draining, and I'd honestly be surprised if he doesn't find commuting to North Caloocan draining. However, in trying to keep a positive mindset, people took it in a negative direction, and rightfully so. Despite the efficiency of rail transportation in contrast to other forms of public transportation, rail transportation takes a physical toll in commuters, sacrificing comfort for efficiency. It's a big reason why people still prefer road transportation to rail transportation. Even if they're stuck in traffic, they're in the comfort of their seat. Based on my experience, whenever I take public transportation and the route goes to a train line, I can choose to board the train and avoid traffic, but because of how I'd have to walk up to the station, wait to board a probably full train, I'd rather just sit there and wait. Privacy is also a big matter in rail transportation, since when you're in a very tight train car, you probably not want to open your bag or not use your phone or something like that. But when you're in a car, let's say, or a bus or a jeep, you're more likely to open your bag and use your phone or use headphones and listen to music to avoid the traffic, because there's not really much a lot of people or a lot of opportunity for people to grab something. But for commuters who rely on the line to go to school or work on time, they're forced to put up with these issues of rail transportation. So it's justifiable for people to take offense on a video selling a reality vastly different from theirs. Even fanatics of public transportation will find commuting draining. It's unavoidable. Now the question remains, how can we fix rail transportation? Well, I actually asked my Discord server how we can fix the many issues with rail transportation in the country, and later on I'll suggest my own solutions if no one else mentions them. This won't go wrong, right? Okay, before I start this segment, I started developing this video idea on January 6. This part of the script was written on January 28. Again, I apologize for the delays and outdated nature of this topic, but let's see what my Discord suggests. Many have suggested maintaining and revitalizing aging infrastructure, with some suggesting that the country should adopt foreign systems of public transportation, taking notes in the public transportation systems of Japan and Singapore. Someone suggested of renaming Central Terminal Station. I genuinely believe changing this goddamn station's name will fix everything. Many others also proposed constructing new rail lines to entice commuters to use public transportation instead of private vehicles. Many, however, suggest making tweaks to the current system to avoid overcrowding and insufficient service. Many have also suggested to improve many other public transportation options while revitalizing or other options to improve connectivity in the region. Many advocated against corruption in the government, while one specific person suggested we replace the government with a new one. If it wasn't for uni, this guy would have done a revolution by now. Someone also suggested that we should bomb expressways. Imagine cruising down a fucking expressway and then you suddenly get fucking bombed. I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm skimming through the messages. There's just a lot to unpack, and it's tough to put them all into words individually. I mean, you can pause the video in this timestamps to read the messages. I think the biggest issue for rail transportation is overpopulation. It has gone to the point where public transportation itself has a sort of induced demand phenomenon, because they're the only options. Trains, jeepneys, buses, tricycles, they'll most certainly get congested. The more the population grows in the region, the more this problem will become common. Traffic can already get terrible in other regions of the country, and they have a drastically lower population than Metro Manila. I hate to end this video in a negative note, but I really want to give uplifting message about how we can fix our issues. The thing is, we can't do much about it, other than put a band-aid on it. When Metro Manila remains the center of the country, No fix will ever solve overpopulation. Public transportation will stay congested, traffic will grow worse, and land will be demolished or reclaimed just to build condominiums and villages. If the government isn't serious about moving away from Metro Manila and keeps on building in this region, then survival remains with the common.